Hello and welcome back to Finally Got Around To. In today's episode of Indie Games You Should Know About, I want to talk about some of my favorite action games that I got to play at PAX West. This isn't going to be the longest list, but I do think that these games deserve a special shout out. I guess with that, why don't we just jump into the first one? So this is Sulfur. It's a game being developed by Perfect Random. It has a free demo on Steam and early access is planned for launch sometime next month, sometime in October, depending on when you're watching this. As you can see, it's a first-person shooter. It's got a lot of customizable guns, different kinds of guns you can find. You're basically going to be delving through these underground caves and dungeons, fighting a lot of goblins and other creatures. It does have a lot of inventory management as well, as you can see right there. And then boss battles. This is the cousin, which was actually at PAX West. I think nobody was able to beat the cousin. A lot of people tried, and a lot of people didn't do it. I think the first person who did would get a free t-shirt. But I found there was an easier way. If you just write a review of the demo on Steam, because demos actually have their own Steam pages now. If you just write a demo of the if you write a review of the demo, they also give you a shirt. So that's what I did. I got a pretty sweet shirt. It's definitely a little freaky looking, so I'm not going to be wearing it out to any professional gatherings, but it's still a cool shirt. So this game, it has a very unique aesthetic. Obviously, it's got some weird looking characters, but it kind of mixes kind of modern day elements. You saw there was like a flip phone, cell phone earlier in the clip, but it also has some heavy mythological and religious themes as well. There's some, you can kind of experience it in the demo, but there's some kind of religious redemption going on with this protagonist. So there is definitely a story to follow in this game, which I'm curious to learn more about. And even if you don't even pay attention to the story, there's a whole crazy action roguelike that's just waiting to be explored. And I think this is one of those games that could have a lot of endless replayability depending on what kind of loot you run into when you're playing and what kind of enemies you run into and what other kind of power-ups you are able to find. So I'm curious to play more of this game. I've already put, I think, maybe 2 hours into the demo, and I am feeling like I've only scratched the surface, and that's just at the demo, so I can't even imagine what to expect when early access comes out next month. But yeah, that is Sulfur. So remember that I'm going to have links to the Steam pages for all of these games in the description below, so if you want to check them out, give them a wish list. I highly recommend it. Wish lists do go a long way for these indie devs, and yeah, you can also write reviews of demos now, so that's also a great way to support a game like this. But let's move on to the next game. This is Unyielder. This is made by True World Games and being published by, I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this correctly, but it's Shueisha Games, Shueisha Games. But yeah, this is the one I was talking about, where just looking at the trailer, looking at kind of the basics of this game, I was like, this doesn't seem like my kind of game. Like, it's a very fast-paced first-person shooter, and that's typically not my specialty. Then it's not something that I excel at, and therefore usually don't have that much fun with. But I did try this game multiple times at PAX West because it ended up being a lot of fun. So I think I just talked through, this is kind of a short trailer, so I just talked through the whole trailer already. But this game has been described as a rogue looter. It's a boss rush, why is that so hard to say? It's a boss rush game. So you go in, you pick your weapons, you pick your power-ups, and then you jump through the portal and you are facing off against one of a couple random bosses. At least this was my experience with the demo at PAX West. There's 2 bosses and then a third secret boss that you can sometimes get. And I think it was maybe the 4th time I tried, I was able to encounter the third secret boss, and I'll get to that a little bit later, but let's talk a little more about the game. There's a bunch of different kinds of weapons that all feel really great. There's this rocket launcher, there's kind of a single shot rifle. Those were some of my specialties that I'd tried. Each weapon has a hip fire, so that if you don't zoom in and fire, it has a type of fire, but then if you zoom in, it has a different kind of fire. For example, this revolver, you can just fire it from the hip. You can, like, I think you can, maybe it's a different pistol, but yeah, I think you can, yeah, like, okay, yeah, I think this is it. You can, like, kind of fan the hammer, if you will, like shoot a bunch of shots really in quick succession. But then if you aim down sights, you can actually charge up a shot and then release, and it's a much more powerful shot, obviously. So there's a lot of unique different things to explore with each individual gun, which is kind of fun. But basically how this works is you're fighting these big bosses, you're avoiding them, running around, dashing, jumping. You have a double jump, you have a dash. You're basically just trying to avoid getting hit by them as you whittle them down, deal damage, and then once, I think it's if you do enough damage in one hit, or no, you have, because they have different levels of armor. If you break through one level of armor, then they kind of stagger, and it's that moment where you come up and do a melee. And it's kind of a fun moment because you run up to them, press the melee button, and your character does this kind of, like, I almost want to say like Naruto, like hand movements, and then does a punch, like a big uppercut, and that is kind of, you deal a lot of damage that way, and so you do like a couple of those to beat each boss, and then move on to the next boss. Between each boss, you're able to find like ammo, treasure, health, and power-ups. Different power-ups do different things. Like there's one, I think, that has your weapons deal extra burn damage, so like damage over time. There's faster reloads, there's larger magazines, all kinds of stuff like that. And if you pick the same power-up 3 times, it gets a boost. So there's lots of strategy that goes into picking different power-ups. But yeah, let me just talk about my experience at PAX West. I tried this game a couple of times. There was a leaderboard where I think that, well, okay, so you get a t-shirt if you get 200,000 points, which was basically, it seemed like it was only really possible if you encountered the third secret boss. And I managed to do that on like my 4th try. I had an appointment, tried out the game like twice, came back, tried it twice again, and it was on that 4th time, I believe, is when I was able to get over 200,000 points. I got a free t-shirt, and I was actually really close to the leaderboard. They only had top 3 scores on the leaderboard, and they said that I was only 1,000 below the 3rd place spot, so I was close to being on the leaderboard at PAX, which, you know, there's a lot of people at PAX, a lot of people trying this game, so, you know, I felt pretty good about that. Of course, then I got home and tried on the shirt. It was XL, which is not my size. More of a small or medium kind of guy, so, you know, I'll take what I can get. Maybe it'll be a great shirt for, if I need a big shirt, I don't know. But I've talked enough about this game. Why don't we move on to the next game? This is Tears of Metal. It's being developed by Paper Cult Games, and I have already talked about this game a little bit in my video about the Mix event that happened around PAX West. Technically, it wasn't part of PAX West, but it was in Seattle the same weekend. But it was just a cool event that showed off lots of indie games. If you want to check out the video I made about that event, I'll put a link to that in the description as well. So I have talked about this game a little bit already, but it is still a really cool game. One of my favorites, I think, overall from PAX West. It's a hack and slash, kind of in the vein of Dynasty Warriors, but with a little bit more complexity, a little bit more strategy, and a little bit more difficult. I'll say that too. When I got to play it, I didn't actually make it. Or I did make it to the final boss of the demo, but I wasn't even able to beat the final boss of the demo. Yeah, it's very roguelike in that you're going to be kind of trying to progress through different areas, getting different power-ups, and you're probably gonna perish at some point like I did. It is not an easy game. You need to kind of keep your wits about you. Like, even though it's kind of a big crowd of people like a Dynasty Warriors, you do have dodge and block mechanics, and you definitely need to use those. Yes, it also is going to be co-op, so you can invite, I think it's up to 4 total players, so you can bring 3 of your friends along. Everybody is going to bring their specific army along with them to the battle. You can kind of pick, like, oh, I want to bring archers, I want to bring spearmen, I want to bring swordsmen, or whatever. Those guys can get upgraded as well as you progress. But the thing about co-op is if everyone gets to bring their army as well, but then also the difficulty of the battles are scaled up accordingly so that it doesn't lose any of its difficulty just because you have multiple players engaging in the battle. So the other thing I've learned since I recorded my mix video, I kind of got more of an understanding of where the name Tears of Metal comes from. There is something called a dragon meteor, and I think that might be kind of what's being alluded to with these kind of almost volcano-ish looking, like, dark fire things, like that thing in the background there. It seems to be, the dragon meteor seems to be the source of kind of strange powers and abilities. It also is the reason why so many people are fighting over this stuff. You can even see in a lot of the images, you can see kind of meteors falling in the background, and that's kind of at least partly where the title Tears of Metal comes from. Like, they're tears of metal falling from the sky. So yeah, I'm very excited to try out more of this game sometime soon. It does not have any kind of release date or release window yet. It was only announced, was it at Summer Game Fest? I think it was only just announced at Summer Game Fest, so yeah, it might be a little while until there's actually the opportunity to play this game. I'm hoping that sometime soon there will be a demo on Steam. If there is, I'll definitely let you know, because I think everybody needs to be able to play this game. I'm hoping the demo, I'm crossing my fingers, I'm hoping that the demo could maybe be multiplayer, but that's usually pretty rare. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this game, if you can't tell. Yeah, I'll leave it there. And that is it for this video. If you enjoyed these action games, let me know by leaving a like or leaving a comment. What's some of your favorite indie action games that you've played lately or heard about? Because I definitely want to keep them on my radar too. But yeah, other than that, thanks for watching, and hit that like button, subscribe for more indie video game recommendations, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.